Jeremy.
Hey, Valerie.
You want to talk?
I want to talk.
Let's talk.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, I want to talk about George Floyd.
That was sad. I heard about that. And I guess that things are getting pretty bad when Say His Name is trending on Twitter. And sister, you know that I'm hip to what's hopping. I'm hashtag woke. In fact, I just scrolled through some pretty dope threads on the topic of racism. So I guess you could say that I'm a bit of an expert on what it's like to be black.
An expert, huh?
Hey, I've been podcasting Code Switch, so yeah, you could say that I know which way is up. And if you don't mind, please don't interrupt. I was saying that I get the plight of your people. And all this week I've been getting the feeling that y'all are in need of some friendly advice about how to protest and what to write on your signs. The thing is, you need to keep the optics in mind if you want your message to connect with the crowd. Just look at the sheriff of Genesee County. When he put his baton right down on the ground and went out walking along with the people, it made me so proud to see a cop leading. And if you and the cops could just do more kneeling together, I believe we could stop all this bleeding and maybe these protests would accomplish
I said
more.
I want to talk about George.
I hear you. And hey, do you know what's whack? I hope I can say that even though I'm not black. I got so mad the other day when the park police decided to spray all those peaceful protesters with flash grenades and pepper balls so the president could get his photo op standing in front of the house of the Lord.
I said I want to talk about George.
Exactly. But first, if it's okay, let's pause for a moment to remember MLK. I think if Brother Martin were here today, then surely my good friend Brother Martin would say that protest has got to be done the right way. I mean, you never saw my good friend and personal hero, Brother Martin, smashing windows or stealing TVs. What he stole was our hearts. And what he had was a dream that one day all of God's people would live together in peace. And if my good friend and personal hero and longtime role model, the Reverend Dr. Brother Martin Luther King Jr. were here today, I'm sure he would stand up and boldly proclaim that all lives matter. And as long as we're
I want to talk about George and Brianna and Ahmad. I want to talk about how history has somehow managed to filter out the fact that Dr. King was hated and berated and confiscated and assassinated. I want to talk about the people that have invested more time in speaking about the accurate, appropriate, whatever that is, ways of protesting, as though revolt isn't inherently American, as though when white Americans loot and destroy property and continue to revolt, it is called a revolution. But when black folks do it, then and only then is it a riot, even though our good friend and personal hero and longtime role model, Reverend Dr. Brother Martin Luther King Jr. told us that riots are the language of the unheard. I want to talk about the 8 minutes and 46 seconds that George Floyd was strangled to death in slow motion. I want to talk about Breonna Taylor and how she was in her home, in her bed when she was assassinated, in her home, in her bed while she slept, and a round of bullets is what took the time to interrupt her slumber. I want to talk about Ahmaud, who was jogging and minding his business, and his skin color made him look suspicious. I want to talk about Ahmaud, Rashad, Amber, Brianna, Emmett, Trayvon, Sandra. I want to talk about gentrification, rezoning, massacres, mass incarceration, food apartheid that all of y'all keep calling food deserts, as if segregation and starvation were caused by the weather. And they're not. I want to talk about George and Himalina and Mike and Freddie and Brittany and Aisha and Francisco and Ella.
Well, I've got
And
some
if
thoughts about
you
that.
don't mind, please don't interrupt. You want to talk? Let's talk about a church that centers white voices and black voices only seem to matter when they're singing the gospel. And as soon as we're not singing, the world loses interest in our gospel and it's no longer heard. How people love our songs, our dancing, our food, our clothes, our hair, our culture, our rhythm, but not our blues. I want to talk about how black people are the only suspects in their own murder. I want to talk about the fact that black parents have to talk with their boys and girls around what to do when confronted by the police, how a 7-year-old is required to keep their anxiety under control and grown men are supposed to have gun control. We learn to control our demeanor, our fear, their prejudice, and our tongues, but grown men don't need to control their guns. And I don't want to talk about good cops. I want to talk about a corrupt system. I want to talk about stopping evil and injustice and oppression, and yes, maybe tear gas and maybe the rubber bullets and maybe pepper balls, but only after we talk about George. Why can't we just say his name? Hey, Jeremy,
Hey, Valerie.
you want to talk?
Well,
I mean, you really want to talk?
I'm not sure I'm ready to talk.
You want to talk? I want to talk. Let's talk, though, when you're ready to say his name.